This commenter read an article stating that 90% of all diseases are related to your lifestyle choices. The foods you eat, how much you exercise, the toxins you're exposed to. We could argue that exposure to environmental toxins is not a choice, but let's actually talk about the 90% number because it's misleading. About half of Americans have at least one diet-preventable disease, which yes, does mean that if that person had had a higher quality diet, that they could have avoided that health problem. First of all, this does not mean that that health problem is that person's fault. Let's be clear on that. That soapbox rant could be a whole other video, but the extrapolation of that statistics is where 90% comes from. The idea that 90% of diagnoses are in this category of diet-preventable diseases. But that does not mean the same thing as saying that 90% of what happens to you health-wise is lifestyle choices. Only 40 to 50% of health outcomes are determined by diet plus lifestyle. So the foods you eat, how active you are, how much you sleep, how stressed you are. About 30% is determined by genetics, 10 to 20% is determined by medical care, and about 20% is your social and physical environment, which would include everything from how close you live to a grocery store to how clean your drinking water is, whether or not you're socially isolated. And I think the problem with stating that 90% of diseases are caused by diet and lifestyle is it misrepresents how much your health is in your power to control. It's a statistic used to rationalize healthism. The belief that your health is your responsibility and that good health has moral value. Now, my content focuses on improving diet quality outside of any specific dietary framework. Because even if diet and lifestyle only determine 40% of health outcomes, given the prevalence of diet-preventable diseases, it's incredibly worthwhile. And what I do in my content is focus on accessible, affordable foods, permissive dietary structures instead of restrictive ones so you can get off the diet roller coaster, and sustainable lifelong eating patterns. But it is important to know that 50 to 60% of your health outcomes are not determined by things in your control. Diet can get you a long ways, but it's not everything. It's not actually 90%. And those who claim otherwise are trying to sell you something.